Correct. Correct.
Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to all. I hope I'm audible. If yes, please do comment in the chat box with a yes. Great then. So let's wait for just 2 more minutes while we have a few more folks logging into the webinar. Uh, Until then, why don't you all share with us in the chat which city and town y'all are representing today? Go ahead and type in which city and town y'all are from. Wow, a lot of people from Chennai and Mumbai. Great to see that. Oh, we have one Pune as well. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Natasha and I'm the host for today's webinar. Today we will be talking about an importance of a digital first approach presented by David Appasamy. David heads brand and strategy at SocialBeat. He's not only my mentor but also a trailblazer in marketing. He has over 35 years of experience in management, advertising, sales, digital marketing. His career has spanned, with the topmost organizations in the country, including ITEC, DDB Mudra, SIFI Technologies, and Mudra Microfinance. We are happy to have him here today. Just a small note before we get started, if you have any questions during the presentation, please keep it in the chat box below so that we can take it up in the end at the question and answer session. Yes, so over to you, David.
Thanks, Natasha. Am I clearly audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll just share the screen and we'll start off. So good evening, everybody. Very happy to have you all with us. And I hope you find this session very interesting. Now, what we're going to look at today is the importance of having a digital first marketing strategy, especially in today's world. In fact, in the last 5 years, if you were not doing something which is digital first, you were bound to lose out. And post-COVID, this is going to become even more important. But to understand how digital has taken off and reached the point it has today, let's first look at the difference between traditional media and digital media. I think if you understand this, it'll become abundantly clear to you why a digital first strategy makes more sense. Companies have various marketing objectives, brands have various marketing objectives. They could span all of these. It could be as basic as create awareness at the point of launch. It could be to build image and credibility, depending on what kind of a brand you are, how premium you are. It could be to buy or to contract a service. It could be to differentiate. It could be any number of reasons. But in the old days, all companies used what was called the conventional media to advertise what they wanted based on the marketing objective. And you're all familiar with the conventional media. What we're going to take a quick look at today now is the nature of conventional media. How did it work? This is how it worked. It was one to many. It was one way. Print and outdoor was static. I mean, it just stayed still. And radio and TV were a little more dynamic. And the person consuming the news was passive. You sat back and you listened, or you sat and watched, or you sat and read, or you drove by an outdoor. You're a passive consumer. Most of the content was what was called proprietary content. It belonged to the media house that published it. So if the Hindu did an article, it belonged to the Hindu. If there was a particular news capsule done by NDTV, it belonged to NDTV. And they also credited other news media that they used, like PTI or Bloomberg or Reuters or, any number of them. They would credit them because it was proprietary. And of course, all these various media channels were owned by large media houses. So there was no equity, between the person consuming the media and the person providing the media. The large media houses had a disproportionate amount of power, whereas the person consuming the media was a recipient of whatever they dished out. And that could vary. Now, contrast this with the way the digital media works. It is many to many. It is two-way. It is interactive. It is dynamic. It can be print. It can be audio. It can be audio-visual. But the best part is the people who are consuming the media are active participants, not passive. In fact, they're interacting dynamically with the various digital platforms all the time. And many of them, in fact, most of them, most of us, are generating content. So on digital platforms or on the digital platform, you'll find that 80% of the content is user generated. And who owns all of this? You and I do. We own it, right? I mean, we don't literally own it, if you know what I mean, but you own your Facebook page, you own your mailbox, you own your Twitter feed, you own your Insta handle, you get the drift. So we own it and we generate content, we interact with it, we're active participants. No wonder then that people grasp the opportunity to move to digital media in large numbers. Now, what did they move to do? They did anything and everything online. And especially today, when we're all on our smartphones, it's right at the end of your arm, isn't it? It's yours to do whatever you want to do, wherever you want to do it, at any time, 24/7. Just think about it. A while ago, if you wanted to watch the primetime news, you had to sit in front of your TV at 9 o'clock. Now you can get the news anytime you want, whether you want it audiovisual or whether you want it in print. It's available to you at the end of your arm at any time. Earlier, if you wanted to read the news, you waited for the newspaper at 6:15 in the morning. Today, it's available to you at any time. So it doesn't matter for what. If you're waiting at a doctor's appointment, you can watch videos. You can pass the time. If you want to socialize, you can meet your friends on Facebook. If you want to professionally network, you can be on LinkedIn. You can catch up on your email. You can do your work. You can do anything. So the important thing to remember here is that users own, in their minds at least, the media, and they initiate its use. They initiate its use. This means marketers have to remember that when they're putting things out there, users can feel that you're going into their space, isn't it? if it's your Facebook page, your Twitter feed, you get an ad there, it's intrusive. You could say, yes, it is. Or if you get a promoted social media post, it is intrusive. So why do we accept it? All of us accept it. Let's face the fact. Why do we accept it? The truth is, we accept it because, in a way, we give permission. We certainly do when we sign up for Facebook or Instagram or any one of these platforms. And we don't even give it a thought, right? I don't know how many of you have actually read the entire terms and conditions. I haven't, I can tell you that. But the point is, they're free because there are ads, because things are being promoted. So you give your permission. You also know that whatever you get to see is going to be relevant to you. Because remember, when you sign on to any of these platforms, you put out a pretty detailed profile, isn't it? You give details of yourself, your age, your profession, what you're doing. You put down all your interests. And starting from there, depending on what you're looking at, what you're commenting on, what kind of things you're posting, what kind of media you're engaging with, these platforms are continually building a profile of you and me with regard to our interests and what matters to us. And that algorithm will always throw up what is relevant to you and me. So there you are. Things that we see are things that are within our scope of either desire, aspiration, or interest. So that works well. But beyond relevance, what do marketers have to ensure when you're on a digital platform? Remember, if you're offline, if you're putting an ad in the paper, it'll be your standard ad, which is pushing a product or brand. If it's a standard television commercial, in 30 seconds, it'll tell you why to buy and what the key benefit is. It is push communication, it is one way, and it's aimed at selling. But when you're on digital platforms, you're engaging with people who are active participants. They're not passive consumers. And they don't want you pushing stuff at them. They want to engage with you. They want to have a conversation. So the way you do it online differs fundamentally from what you do offline. You engage with them in the way that they relate to you, they like you, they look for more information from you, and so on. So the key here is not only must you be relevant, you must reward them in some way with storytelling. What could be this kind of storytelling? It could be something that triggers their emotions and gives them emotional satisfaction. It could be humor. It could be something which challenges them. It could be something provocative. It could be something that gives them new information. Always, there is a reward at the end of it. They feel fulfilled. They feel gratified in some way. They feel satisfied. And when they're truly satisfied, they engage with what you shared or what you put in front of them, even if it is your video. And if they really liked what you said or shared, they will then share it to others. Now, when they share it with others, they sort of owned your content. They liked it so much, they wanted to share it with their friends, right? So when they share it with their friends, who do their friends credit if they like it? They will credit you. They'll say, hey, that was a good one, da. That was a great share. Thanks for sharing that with me. They're not looking at the brand or the creator of the video or the post. They credit you because you're the one who saw fit to share it with them. That's when things go viral. But remember, smart marketers must understand what moves consumers, do the storytelling in that way so that they engage with it and they share it. This kind of storytelling can be very powerful. Most of you have seen, I'm sure, a BMW commercial on television. You know how they feature the car, they show you its um, interiors, they show you the exterior, how sexy it is. They tell you about all the luxury features that are built in there. A typical television commercial. But how does a BMW do that online when they have to do storytelling? I'm going to show you a commercial that BMW used to break into the US market. And this is not a commercial. This is a story. And I don't know if we have time to see the full story, but you'll understand what I mean.
Millions more? The forces arrayed against you are significant. To be chosen for such a thing.
As long as the case is delivered, it's worth the risk.
Death?
Yes.
Who are they? Why are they doing this?
Drive or we're dead.
Tell me what's inside the case.
I can't tell you what's in the case, just drive.
Right, you tell me what's inside that case, or this ride ends right here, right now. You pull out and I'll break you off. Are you sure?
Some might say this was nothing more than suicide.
What would you fall on your sword for? If not this, then what?
To remind you.
What is that?
It's been hit.
What the hell does that mean?
In the event things should complicate, we have contingency standing by. You are to disregard our original drop point and reroute. If you lose your transportation for any reason, use your cell phone, and the driver will locate you.
What the hell is that? What is it? Is it chemical? Is it biological?
Neither.
What does it do?
Salvation. We're being followed. We didn't file a flight plan. If they picked us up, it must have happened after we... Watch it! Watch it!
doing? Right, two options, both non-negotiable. First one, you tell me what's inside that case. I make the decision whether to keep driving it. Second one, I put you in the case outside the car. You take your chances. It's 27 miles to the destination. I'll just make it on the gas that I've got. You call it, or you're out. This man's wounded. He's been shot.
What is the life of one man worth? Millions more? The forces arrayed against you are significant.
What would you fall on your sword for? If not this, then what?
To be chosen such a thing.
As long as the case is delivered, it's worth the risk. You wanna know what's in this case? Life. Human life. To save a great man who's kept peace in his country for half a century. And if I fail, if we fail, and he dies, then a country dies with him. And tyranny takes its place. Now drive.
The situation is blown. You've lost. Have your men stand down.
So you'd have seen from that film that it was anything but a television commercial. But at the same time, they demonstrated the car to you. They showed you how beautifully it handles, how it is rugged, how it can take just about any kind of treatment, how much control it affords, and the speeds it can do. And it showcased all of that in a very exciting storyline. Literally, a car on a life-saving mission carrying a human heart for a transplant for a country's leader. Now, this is one of the films that BMW used in North America when they broke into the American market to gain market share very rapidly against Mercedes-Benz. They did 8 such stories. This is one of them. There are 7 others. You can find them on YouTube. Each one was done with a famous Hollywood director, and each one reflects the director's style, the director's story, and the director's way of putting the whole thing together. So you can have a look at that at some point of time. But great storytelling is part of what keeps audiences engaged online. But of course, you could always argue that this is a BMW, you can do an exciting story like this. What about financial investments? How boring can that get? Imagine if you have a company that is trying to get you interested in investing in a new form of energy. Let's look at what Epuron did to get your attention to a new form of energy.
I think I was always misunderstood. People just didn't seem to like me.
I think I annoyed them. I got on their nerves. I don't know why. That's just the way it was. Yeah. Maybe I was too intense. Maybe I came on too strong. I don't know. I really can't say. Yeah, it was lonely. Really lonely. But you get used to it after a while. And then one day, everything changed. Somebody finally accepted me for what I am. Since I've got this job, life is completely different. I finally feel useful, good at something.
So it's as simple as getting people to invest in wind energy. And that's how Epuron did it, by personifying the wind as a man. These two videos, by the way, are some of the most watched videos on the internet because they are so captivating in their own way. So storytelling is behind everything that is done online in terms of marketing. Now, the fact that we are all actively engaged with digital platforms, we're not passive consumers, how has it affected our behavior? The following slides will indicate that very, very simply and visually. Connectivity has changed everything, especially in the last 10 years. And all of us have become publishers. We record, we post, we share, we, take pictures and share. We we write blogs, we do TikTok videos. We are all publishers in our own right, and we are expressing ourselves in a multitude of ways. It could be as simple as a selfie, and depending on the occasion, the selfie could vary. It could be expressing ourselves on a platform like Instagram. Hari, for example, who's one of our team members, whenever he travels, and he travels extensively on his motorbike, he always posts pictures of his travels. Here is a picture from a cotton plantation. See how interestingly he's taken it to show you the cotton as well as his bike in the distance. The middle one is a lady who is heavily into fitness, and she's constantly encouraging others to do it as well. On the right is Pallavi Aga, who's a wellness doctor, and she herself is a fitness guru in her own right. And she builds her brand online to be able to get people to identify with her and come to her as her patients. So we are all doing personal branding in some way. It is no more the celebrities who are doing it. We're all a brand today, and that is defined by who we are online. By what we read, what we like, what we post, what we share, and we do that on various platforms as we express ourselves. And these platforms give us the tools to do it. And the latest being TikTok, of course. It's just taken off like a rocket because everybody wants to express themselves, especially on video now. So you have TikTok stars, you have TikTok influencers, you have TikTok humorists, you have TikTok anything and everything, depending on what your talent is. Add to that what we call the discovery mindset. Whenever we want something, what do? We search online. If it's a restaurant close by, or where to get a particular product, or about a particular product, or how to use a particular product, anything and everything, we go and look for it online. So the discovery mindset is very well established. And because we're willing to look at new things all the time, platforms take advantage of it by doing this pre-roll, right? If you scrolling down Facebook on your phone, every time it comes to a video, it starts playing. And if it catches your attention, you're willing to watch because you're open to discovering new things. And similarly, when it comes to deep content, you're always out there looking for something new. So this discovery mindset has fueled the need to engage with digital platforms, and something which every brand and marketer will keep in mind, because if you can cater to that, you can be sure that you will engage with your audience. Now, all of this has meant that digital media is being consumed more and more in with gigantic leaps forward, so to speak. Let's take a look at the phenomenon. But first, let's look at offline media. In the Indian Readership Survey of 2019, we found that the most read newspaper in India, and in fact the world, is the Hindi paper Dainik Jagran. 73.67 million readers it has across 11 states in North India and 37 editions. Can you think of the mammoth task of printing and distributing across 11 states, 37 editions? The next is Malayalam Manorama, which is 17.47 million readers. And you can see they have 11 editions in Kerala, as well as across the major metros, as well as Dubai, Manama, and Doha. Well, Times of India readership is at 15 lakhs, and they have something like 8 or 12 editions. All of this is a physical newspaper that has been printed and distributed for one-time consumption every single day. Those numbers look pretty impressive, don't they? But let's take a look at what's happening on digital. By 2018, in terms of digital users, internet users, India had topped even the United States, and we are second only to China. You can imagine the rate of adoption of digital in our country. And if you look at the social media platforms, when we looked at numbers like 73 million, 74 million, Facebook has 2.2 billion. YouTube has 1.9 billion. WhatsApp has 1.5 billion. And the list goes on. These numbers are astounding. Of course, this is for the whole world, but we'll come to India. We have 560 million internet users in India today in 2019. 300 million Facebook users in 2019. 400 million WhatsApp users in 2019. 155 million Instagram users in 2019. And 65 million LinkedIn users. Even LinkedIn is more than Dainik Jagran. And these are platforms where people are actively participating and engaging, not passive consumption. YouTube, one of the most used platforms in the Indian context, has 300 million people online in India on YouTube. And what happened to accelerate this growth so fast over the last 3 years? It was the launch of Jio and the free services that they offered. It simply accelerated the growth of the number of people who were online and what they were doing online. You can see how the data usage has skyrocketed. These are all from the State of the Internet report by Mary Meeker, which tracks what is going on across the world every year. So much so that this year, the number of internet users in India is going to be 650 million. 650 million. What an incredible number. That's half the population of the country. And you can bet that the rate of adoption will continue at least until the entire literate population is reached. And beyond that, it'll still be things like video, because people can understand even if they know the language. They may not be able to read, but they can watch a video and understand what is being said. Which is why you look at YouTube, there are 200 million Indians on the YouTube platform every month, far beyond any other form of media. There are 100 million users every day watching something or the other. And it is across audiences, across age groups, and across genders. TikTok has also surged in ways, I mean, it's really hard to understand the rate at which TikTok has grown over the last 2-3 years. We are uploading 17 million videos daily. Can you imagine? And a person who's using TikTok opens the app 6+ times every day. See, you have to remember that we all look at our phones more than 150 times a day. Out of those 150 times, a TikTok user opens it to use TikTok 6 times or more per day. That's how much it is used. And they spend up to 40 minutes on the app per day. Now, all of this means this audience is there, they're actively engaged, they're wanting to engage because of the discovery mindset, and they're using it for hours every day. You know, if you look at the number of hours people use a phone in a week, it was something like 13.5 hours per week. And now, because of the lockdown, that's gone up to 15 hours per week on the phone. You can imagine how much you can accomplish when you're engaging with them on their phone. So it is possible to get your return on investment by marketing through targeted, trackable digital promotions to reach this engaged audience. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India did a study which shows that digital media will grow the fastest in the coming years. And the lockdown, because of the pandemic, has only accelerated it beyond anything that we saw in the past. Even here that you can see, the compounded annual growth rate was 32% compared to anything else. And so much so, by next year, we're expected to have 829 million users online. And the number of people with an internet connection will surpass television by 3 times. And if you look at advertising growth on television, it has been fairly flat, but significant in terms of numbers. But digital has already reached half that amount. And by 2020, we will have a base of 500 million people watching videos online. That is more than anything on television. And that's an audience you can engage with. And you can engage with them because they're actively seeking. On YouTube, for example, it's the second most used search engine in the world. 1 in 3 searches in India as well happen on YouTube. And you can drive purchase decisions on YouTube because people are looking for products, looking for how to use products, looking for solutions, everything on the video channel. Similarly, you can reach them at a time when it is appropriate. So if you look at the process that the consumers go through in a buying decision, it starts with awareness, goes down to consideration, and then finally to conversion or action. And you can use YouTube to reach people at the appropriate time using the appropriate kind of video. We won't go into this in great detail. It's enough for you to understand the principles behind it. Because if you start delving into everything in a deep drill, we won't have enough time. Similarly, much like in the old days, it was the full page ad in the newspaper, which had high impact as it was called. Today, it is what is called the YouTube masthead. If you open the YouTube app, the top part of it is called the masthead. And your video there has a higher impact than any newspaper ever had in the past. You can also reach them when they've reached a purchase decision. For example, when people are looking for a particular product on Google, which can be tracked, you can then target that same audience with your video on YouTube because you know they're looking for that product. So you're reaching them when they intend to buy. Similarly, you can use Google in such a way that you can discern consumer patterns. You can look at people who frequently shop, who frequently dine out, who frequently visit salons, who go to live events, and depending on your product or service, you can reach them according to their behavior and what their interests are. Similarly, Google can also tell you major life events, whether it's college graduation, whether people are moving, they're moving between cities, starting a new job, getting married, and you can reach them at that point of time. Imagine if somebody's getting married. Think of all the sari advertising that can be done, the gold and jewelry, the gifts, the furniture for a new home. If somebody's moving cities or moving into a new home, the possibilities are mind-boggling. You can also reach them on their favorite platforms, on the programs of their choice. And you can slot in depending on what kind of program your product or brand would best be seen on and what kind of mind frame they're watching. So the possibilities online go far beyond anything offline ever gave us, because people have actively engaged and they're participating on the platforms in which they're interacting. Or you can reach them on their mobile. Facebook alone, for example, 192 million people access Facebook monthly on their phone. I told you they look at it 150 times a day or more. And most of us use Facebook on the phone and not on our laptops. And we look at it multiple times during the day. Imagine if you're advertising on Facebook, the opportunities that are available. And not only that, all these platforms now have upgraded themselves in such a way, they give you better targeting, they give you greater creative opportunities, and they give you the chance to be able to connect it to shop right away. So if you look at it, it depends on where the consumer is in the purchase cycle. And you can reach them with the right message at the right time. What you should also remember is when you're looking at these platforms, because they're online platforms and they have analytics and they're tracking your behavior at all times, you can see that a person who's looking for a particular product, their profile, what other things they're interested in. We can tell you, for example, based on one of the brands that we are handling, that people who are into fitness are also interested in automobiles and two-wheelers. They're interested in music. They're interested in entertainment. And of course, they're interested in accessories to do with fitness. So if you're a fitness brand, it's not that you have to advertise only in the fitness category. You can advertise in the music category, in two-wheelers and automobiles, because you're reaching the same audience there. So it gives you multiple opportunities and multiple points of entry to reach your audience. And because it can take you through better targeting with new forms of creative all the way to purchase, no matter where they are in their awareness, consideration, and purchase cycle, you can reach them with different kinds of communication to drive them down until they actually buy your product, which is where it comes to full funnel marketing. That's what we call full funnel marketing. We have to understand that on digital, there are three kinds of media. There's owned media, there's paid media, and there is what we call earned media. So owned media is your own website. It's your Facebook page, it's your Insta handle, it's your Twitter feed and all of that. It could be your microsite. Paid media is the paid advertising that you do, the social media promotions that you do, and so on. The content that you promote on Facebook and other platforms. Now, your earned media are your own blogs, your own social sharing, and the influencer activation that you do. Now, a mix of all of these across the funnel in terms of awareness, consideration, and conversion is what you look at when you look at full funnel marketing. Now, the point I'd like you to remember is you can't do this in offline media at all. Full funnel was a marketing concept when there was only offline marketing. And you tried to use offline media in ways where you hoped to be able to reach people, the right people at the right time, not knowing if they were in the right frame of mind or not. You could only hope that they were there. If you were looking at conversion, you did promotions with a discount in the newspaper and hoped people who were looking at that product would come to you. You didn't know for sure who they were and why they would come to you. But on digital, you can track them from awareness to interest to conversion. You can track them and you can actively influence and push them down that funnel. It's a different way of marketing altogether, which is why a digital first strategy becomes more and more important in today's world. So this is a strategy that is all encompassing. It uses all forms of content, and it uses analytics to be able to track your audience across all of these platforms using the right kind of story, the right kind of video, the right kind of ad, the right kind of blog or content to be able to reach them at the awareness stage, to take them to the consideration stage, to convince them at that stage, and then give them an offer to convert them. So this is what it looks like. From awareness, the kind of things that you do on the right; from consideration, the kind of things you would do on the right; and to conversion, and even in terms of building loyalty. So the kind of content you put out there, and the content can be your marketing content, it can be your blog content, it could be your social media content, all of that becomes your full funnel marketing strategy. And especially now, post the pandemic, you can see that there's a decline in offline media, and everybody is online. They're engaged, they're working, they're watching videos, they are watching entertainment, they are looking at television online, they're on shopping site. I mean, the whole life, other than being at home, is by and large online today. And what does that mean? Going forward post pandemic, what's going to happen is more of them will stay with the online behavior than with the offline. We also know the way the pandemic is uh, unfolding, that these lockdowns may be intermittent. It won't be one lockdown after which everything goes back to normal. It may be a lockdown after which there'll be some relaxation. Then they'll watch how the infections go up. There may be a second lockdown. They'll watch how the infections pan out. There may be a third lockdown before relaxation. It may take 6 months or more. It takes 21 days to form a habit. We're already past 21 days in terms of the lockdown, and we're all working on online. People have formed the habit. They're going to be doing more online than they ever did before. So digital is going to become the preeminent way people interact with the world, with media, with different brands going into the future. And a full funnel digital marketing program and a digital first approach is what is going to get you results. We'll now stop and open it up for questions.
Thanks, David. That was a very insightful session. Just before we start the questions as well, I would like to take 2 minutes and talk about DigiGrad. So this webinar is brought to you by DigiGrad, which is a training initiative by Social Beat. And part of the initiative, our entire aim of the initiative is to ensure that we can upskill professionals and students with the latest trends in digital marketing. So my colleague Abhishek will be dropping the link in the chat shortly as well. And yes, you can please feel free to drop in your questions as well.
So we open for questions.
Yes, we have a question from Nirmal. Nirmal, why don't you go ahead and you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question as well.
Yeah, please go ahead, Nirmal.
Hi, David. I was asking, how can smaller brands take advantage of the digital marketing platforms with smaller budgets on spending for marketing?
Yeah. With small budgets, the important thing is to ensure that you have a digital base online, even if it is a simple website. It's important for you to have that base. Make sure you have a blog, start creating a lot of content, which you can then share and promote. And it doesn't cost a lot to promote online on the platforms. Now, if you can do that, and you can make sure that you draw more and more people to your content, the earned media will come into play. And you have to make sure that your content is search engine friendly so that people discover that content. And depending on your product or brand, you make sure that you put out relevant information that people are looking for. You do it based on the analytics of what people are looking for. So you become easily discoverable. So then over time, what will happen is your cost of promotions will go down and your earned media will attract a lot of people to you. So this is how you make a small beginning. You need to have a digital base, so as it were, in terms of website and content, and promote it and do some level of advertising and continually keep building up your content. It need not necessarily be only a blog. It could be a video channel as well. And you keep on adding videos. And videos don't cost a lot to make. You can even make them at home, depending on what the product is, and keep on adding to it. And you can have how-to videos depending on your product or service. It's just up to you to use your imagination, but ensure that you have a lot of content online that's discoverable.
Okay, thank you for that.
Anybody else?
Any questions?
Wow.
So David, I definitely have like one question for you. So we have seen a lot of, foreign brands, going ahead and trying out the complete full funnel method and especially a digital first approach. The Indian brands are still, little, they try to, go like with a 360-degree marketing plan. But still, have you seen any Indian brands see success?
Yes, in fact, one of the brands that we handle, which is Himalaya Quista Pro, which is a whey protein brand. It was a brand that had entered a market which was a fairly niche segment at the time, with very well established international players as well as one Indian player, and who had been around for years, and they had occupied the entire market share, so to speak. And this was primarily aimed at people who went to gyms and who were interested in fitness and bodybuilding. Twister Pro came in with a better formula, which is a whey protein, and a blended formula for easy assimilation. But the question was, how do you break into such a closed market? We did that with a full funnel approach. Of course, we had Tiger Shroff as a brand ambassador, which made a huge difference given that, he is so iconic and so well followed. But we created a lot of content, very interesting posts, and followed a full funnel approach. And the brand has actually taken off. Although the budgets have not been gigantic. Of course, I'm sure they paid a fair amount for Tiger Shroff, but the promotion budgets as compared to many consumer brands were not really very large budgets. But the brand has established itself and is growing.
Okay, that's great to hear. David, we have two more questions. So one is from Vishaka. In this era of low attention span, how do brands grab attention through digital advertisements?
The key here, Vishaka, is to not look at it as advertisements. An advertisement was what was done on television, which is a canned piece of communication that focused on a single benefit and it drummed it home for a consumer to get, because they were passive consumers who may not be paying attention to the television screen when the commercials are going on. Online, you do storytelling. You get their attention through storytelling. And you do it in such a way, you reward them in some way. You give them a new insight. You give them new information. You use emotion. You use humor. You use multiple things to get their attention. And that's how you do your marketing online. Like you saw the BMW commercial. It's like a mini movie, isn't it? It's like a thriller movie, but it really gets your attention and keeps you engaged. And the hero of that film ultimately was the car. So storytelling is the way that brands should engage with consumers online to get their interest.
Okay. from Abhishek. Internet usage has gone up sharply, but do you think it will sustain after the lockdown opens up? What is your take on it?
Like I said, it takes about 21 days to form a habit, and habits are difficult to break. And once people have understood the convenience of doing things online and the ease of doing things online, and I can tell you, because people are at home, and other than the dishwashing and the cooking and the working during the day, they don't have too much else to do, right? So the discovery mindset comes into play. And I'm sure a lot of people are discovering many new things that they can do online. And you can see it by the way the various if you look at the number of Netflix subscriptions, it's grown by something like 35% during the lockdown period. That means more and more people are paying for Netflix, and the subscriptions have gone up during this time. Similarly, in every platform, you can see a massive jump in terms of people engaging. Now, this is not going to go away so easily. Yes, there will be some attrition because people don't have as much time as during the lockdown. But will the behavior of doing things online change? I don't think so. They will continue to do more and more online. And people who hitherto prefer to do things offline, for example, buying vegetables, you like to go to a Palamudi store and pick up the vegetable and look at it. It's a habit, right? It feels good. But you start buying on Big Basket and you realize, by golly, they're really good. Or you buy it from an organic store online and you realize it comes from the farm in the morning and then it comes to your home. So are you really going to go back to buying offline? It depends, I suppose, on your circumstances at that point of time. But I think online behavior and the inclination to do more online will remain.
Very valid point, David. We have a question from Pooja. She had a doubt. So a lot of brands want an Instagram first approach, even though Facebook seems to have a wider user range. Is it better to continue with Instagram, or is Facebook still a better market?
I think that's a very narrow way of looking at it. You need to look at your brand and who your target audience is. If your target audience is young adults, Instagram is a better platform. And it's growing at a faster rate for young adults than Facebook. Facebook, in fact, is plateaued where young adults are concerned, but is still growing overall. But if it's the larger audience that you're looking at, Facebook and Instagram would be a good way to go. And what you also need to remember is the fastest growing aspect of Instagram is stories. So again, it's video. And you need to understand how to deploy that. So it's not as simple as platform specific. It's all got to do with the audience, their age profile, their profile in terms of interest, and what they're doing online and where they're doing it.
Yes, absolutely. We have a question from Shantanu. You mentioned Dainik Jagran has a strong presence in tier 2 cities. If marketers are looking at smaller towns in India, do you think digital yet has this trend, or is it still more credible only in the metros?
I think we've gone past that stage where it was a metro phenomenon. I think that was something like 5 years ago or more. Today, if you look at the growth of language content, it's pretty clear that there are a lot of people in small towns consuming a huge amount of information online in their own language. If you look at the way TikTok has taken off, and over 90% of the content is in languages, you know that it's from the tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, and by looking at the video also, you can make out where those videos are being uploaded from. If you look at WhatsApp in languages, if you look at this voice search in languages, it's growing at 20 times voice search in English. So all this is a clear indication that small towns are consuming digital media more than they ever did before. And it's going to be the future going forward. In fact, there are many large brands which are looking at deep content in Indian languages because of this phenomenon. So yes, Dainik Jagran, as we saw, is in 11 states across 37 editions. But digital will probably surpass that very, very rapidly.
Completely agree to David's point. With the advent of geo and data at such a cheap rate, digital has really gone into all the tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. And there is a high amount of consumption in vernacular languages. We've also seen across clients that we do get a higher conversion rate because they're more comfortable in their own language as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
this thing. We have a question from Kriti. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, many industries are at a big loss. How can these companies take advantage of digital marketing? Airlines, travel, bread and breakfast.
These industries that you mentioned are going to take a long time to come back. I think at the outset, we should recognize that, because even after the lockdown period, they will probably be some of the last to really open up or be relaxed in terms of the norms going forward because of the nature of it. Now, having said that, the most efficient form of communicating with your audience in future is digital. Even today, it is digital. It's far more efficient than offline media because your targeting is more accurate, it is more focused, it is based on interest, it's based on where they are in the purchase cycle, and it's based on purchase intent. You can't get more direct than that. So, certainly, the kind of industries that you're looking at, if they know their audience and if they are able to track them, they can reach them more effectively online than they would offline. The cost of reaching them online is far lower and far more efficient than in reaching them offline.
Yes, some industries I feel are hit, at much, have, bigger negative impact compared to the others.
Yeah.
We have a question from Rishi. Do you think TikTok is better only for reach or is it good for conversion as well?
Is it better for reach or is it good for conversion as well? I think at this point of time,
Yes.
if you look at the usage of TikTok, it is probably better for reach and for engagement and for influencing, through TikTok influencers and so on. If when you're on TikTok, you're there because you're having fun. You're not there with serious intent. So depending on the product or service, I think you're more likely to have um traction on the other platforms than TikTok at this point of time. And I think TikTok advertising, I'm not sure that they yet have ads that take you directly to e-commerce platforms and all. So it's probably better for reach at this point of time.
We have this question from Nirmal. Since due to the pandemic, many people are at loss of business and income. Do you think people would be interested in spending money on products apart from essentials and entertainment? Is it the right time for non-essential products to invest in digital marketing right now?
Yeah, there is no formula for the right time as to when you want to start your promotion, right? See, as of now, most of manufacturing is at a standstill. Supply chains are not working. It is only essential goods that are being delivered to be able for the consumer to be able to survive. So we need to see the way the pandemic unfolds to see what is relaxed by when do the fresh cases really go down, when can we actually start opening up industries, when will they start manufacturing, when will supply chains start working. Now, depending on what your product or service is, you'll have to wait and see. And at a time when it looks like things are beginning to pick up, that is when you need to initiate your digital marketing.
Sure. We have this thing. We have a question from Anju as well. What kind of entertainment would you advise for B2B companies on LinkedIn during the ongoing crisis?
For during the ongoing crisis on LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is a platform where people are coming there because of professional interest. So, in terms of their mindset, they're on LinkedIn for a more serious purpose than for entertainment. So, the best way to reach them is to reach them in a way that they can relate to, that can build trust, that can build credibility. So, for a B2B company to do that, for example, you can be talking about what your company is doing during the pandemic to make life easier, even for your own employees and for your customers. Or you could be talking about how your company is helping frontline doctors meet the need for protective equipment by sponsoring equipment for them. Or you could talk about what would be the best practices for somebody to follow during the pandemic. Or you could talk about uh, what your employees are doing to make work from home easier. Everything to do with life during the pandemic, but in a way that is empowering, that builds trust, that builds credibility, and will get them to remember you post pandemic. They'll say, hey, those guys gave me the insight as to how to work from home in a way that I was able to do it more effectively. So these are the kind of things to look at, and not so much entertainment, especially on LinkedIn.
Sure. So I think that was the last question. Do we have any more questions from the audience? If yes, please go ahead and drop it in the chat box. Um, Thank you so much, David, for being with us today. It was a pleasure having you over, and thank you everyone in the audience for joining us for this incredible session. I would like to again take a minute of your time and tell you a bit about DigiGrad as well. At DigiGrad, we aim to train professionals and students with the latest marketing trends, everything from mentorship to guidance to learning about digital ads, SEO, content, everything will be covered as part of a course. We have a short course of 3 weeks, another longer course of 2 months. So in case you all are interested, please do reach out to us at info@digigrad.in.
Thanks everybody for being part of this. I really enjoyed sharing this with you, and I hope you find it really useful.